Welcome to the San Francisco Public Library Commission meeting for March 19th, 2026. The time is 4:30. I'm Margot Schaub, and I serve as the Commission Affairs Analyst. This meeting is being held in person in the main library Crete Auditorium, and members of the public can observe the meeting using Zoom by following the link in the library's event calendar or by calling 1-877-853-5247 and entering ID number 942-3807-6651. Members of the public who are attending the meeting in person may provide public comment for up to 3 minutes for each discussion or action item on the agenda. Library commissioners in attendance are President Calhoun, Vice President Jones, Commissioners Wong, Lopez, Bolander, Keniston, and Menon.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to the March 19th, 2026 meeting of the San Francisco Public Library Commission. We will start with the Ramaytush Ohlone land acknowledgement. The area now known as San Francisco is the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the original peoples of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers for this space and place. We recognize that we benefit from living, working, and learning on their traditional homeland. As uninvited guests, we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community. Thank you. All materials for the meeting are available at the Library Commission webpage or at the back of the room today. Today we have a total of 5 agenda items. Item number 1, we turn to general public comment. At this time, members of the public attending in person may address the Commission on items of interest within the Commission's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. The public can address today's agenda items also when that item is called. So, with that, general public comment is now open.
Jason Gibbs, retired librarian. During your December 2025 meeting, I tried to prevail upon the members of this body to follow their bylaws and allow the stipulated up to 3 minutes of public comment. I realized that not all of you sat on the commission then. Since you ignored my request, I appealed to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force on this matter. I learned a great deal during this process, including that the 3-minute language is part of the Brown Act enshrined in the Sunshine Ordinance and is part of the city's administrative code. That's why your bylaws contain this language and why you can't vote to change it. On March 4th, 2026, I prevailed file number 26015, complaint filed by Jason Gibbs against the San Francisco Public Library Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.15 by failing to allow public comment for up to 3 minutes. The commission analyst ably defended you in this instance, but there wasn't much he could do because your action was indefensible. It was illegal. I refer to this as your action because the Library Commission was the named party in the matter, but the Commission took a far less initiative than that. You never acted on this matter. Any change in public comment time must be made at the sole discretion of the Commission's presiding officer on a meeting-by-meeting basis and not by an administrative analyst. Any of you could have questioned the library's actions, yet you let it continue for 13 consecutive meetings. In January 2025, at the outset of this illegal practice, the administrative analyst only said that leadership decided. Who was leading? Is the Library Commission the passive proxy of the library's administration? I ask you to carefully ask yourselves that. You all have impressive life and work experience, and you are very worthy of serving on this commission. I've heard moments of brilliant insight in your discussions at meetings. You are very smart people, and I'm sure you want to do what's right. The Administrative Code states that you are here to serve the public's interest. You are a governance body that provides oversight and direction to the work of the library. You represent the people out here and many more people you cannot see who use the library. You don't represent the people seated at the far ends of that table. As representatives of the government, you suppressed legally guaranteed speech. Isn't that called censorship? I cannot imagine you consciously desired to censor, yet you continued to do so for more than a year. The Administrative Code also states, the willful failure of any elected official, department head, or other managerial city employee to discharge any duties imposed by the Sunshine Ordinance, the Brown Act, or the Public Record Act shall be deemed official misconduct. Please always remember to put the public first. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Speaking as an anonymous citizen, of course, and stop the hate, stop the ignorance. Don't give money to the Friends of the Library. Don't accept money from the Friends of the Library. I hope you remember that I appeared before you in February of 2025. My purpose at that time was to commemorate the fact that it was the 50-year anniversary of my first attendance at a Library Commission meeting. I was so shocked, I should say horrified by what I saw there, that I forgot to mention it. Have you ever thought that the name of this institution is Public Library? Public Library. Yet we go out and we look for the most anti-intellectual elitists we can find, and we put them on the Library Commission. Why do we do that? Indeed. And not only that, but they seek to establish their elitism by demeaning the public to separate them on a social status. You would think that people had a real claim to elitism would want to emphasize some positive quality that gave them elite status, but no. It's only by demeaning and degrading the public that you establish how thin your claim to elitism really is. A real elitist would want to encourage people less elite themselves to be able to participate. Now you'll see that there's a clock in front of me that's counting down from 3 minutes. Up until this meeting, it said on your agenda that public could comment for up to 2 minutes per item. Just this meeting, that was changed to 3 minutes. There was no acknowledgement of who made that decision or any reason for it. And in fact, when it was changed from December 2024 to January 2025, there was also no rationalization of who made that decision and why it was made. Now, there's only two possibilities. Number one, you're completely oblivious to any duty to the public or any rationalization or sense of responsibility. The other possibility is you say, no, we have illegal seriatim meetings and make our decisions in secret. Well, in fact, if you had any respect for democracy whatsoever, you would recognize that those things were equally bad. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment?
Yes. Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at protonmail.com, Library Users 2004 at protonmail.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. I'm glad to see a full house. The 3 minutes was not announced in any way at the beginning of the meeting or in any way highlighted in the agenda, as was the 2 minute change. There's no explanation, and I certainly would like to know what your explanation is for making the change. It sounds as though we've already heard why, and that is that the Sunshine Task Force found in the complainants and the public's favor that you need to give 3 minutes. You've been violating open government laws for a long time, over and over again. In that first 2 months of your 2 minutes, you interrupted the previous speaker without any explanation. Commissioner Pete Wang, acting as chair, interrupted him, saying he was going to stop his time without a word of explanation, made him start again. And now he was in the position of having to try and understand what the reasoning was and worrying about his time slipping away, and also the attention going away from what he said to whether he was violating some rule. You've also cut public comment on an agenda item, which is adjournment. That's illegal. Every item on the agenda is required to have public comment. And you've, in general, basically smeared the public with your incomplete and, in many cases, misleading minutes without even any discussion when people like myself have said, please fix these, this is the correct thing. In October, I commented on the selection of your One City, One Book and said, as a memoir, it seemed okay, but as a discussion of AI, it seemed to leave a lot out, and in particular specifics about the downsides. And I mentioned huge water use and huge electric use, and also dangers to the public and especially teenagers from social media that you shouldn't be touting uncritically. In any case, Commissioner Pete Wang spent 2.5 minutes, more than my total public comment time for 3 items, basically saying there's heat, there's a lot of fanatics. He mentioned the word fanatics multiple times, and once he mentioned curmudgeon, never providing a single detail of what was good or bad about AI. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Kate Lazarus. I'm on the board of the Friends of the Public Library. Wanted to provide you all with a brief update of what we've been up to. First, starting with the capital projects, we've been focused on the Mission and Chinatown remodels and supporting those efforts. We're proud of our role there, excited to contribute to these very exciting redone branches. And I'm also here as the chair of our advocacy committee, and I've got a couple updates on the advocacy side. I want to highlight that our board member, Allison Fong, made the trip to Sacramento last week to represent our organization and testify before the Senate Education Committee on restoring $3.2 million to the California Library Services Act, including $3 million for English as a second language instruction. We consider this advocacy work critical to our role at the Friends and our support of libraries, not just here, but across the state of California. And then closer to home, we've also been closely monitoring the charter reform efforts that have been taking place this year in San Francisco. Leadership from Friends has attended the charter reform working groups, and we've been meeting with elected officials to try to better understand the process and advocate for the Library Preservation Fund. Our role as a steward for the LPF is really central to our mission. And we are pleased that as of this time, based on the Mayor's Office and the working group analysis, there are no proposed changes to the Library Preservation Fund, but we will continue to monitor developments there with the board and report back anything else that we learn. And we did just want to note that in the course of those charter reform efforts and discussions about set-asides, the library was frequently touted as just a stellar example of a successful set-aside, and there was just broad awareness of the critical role that the library plays in our city. So thank you for your service. Thank you for the opportunity this evening.
Thank you very much. Is there any additional public comment? Thank you. Hearing none, there is no further public comment. Item number 2. We now turn to discussion and possible action to approve our February 12th, 2026 Commission meeting minutes. We will now open public comment on this item. As a reminder, please limit your public comment to this specific item. Public comment is now open.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, and speaking as an anonymous citizen, of course. Stop the hate, stop the ignorance, don't give money to the Friends of the Library, don't accept money from the Friends of the Library. You've amply demonstrated your negligence and incompetence with these minutes. The city librarian welcomed the new commissioner by saying, quote, they deployed millions of dollars in trust-based philanthropic and political giving, and that the other one was a wealth management and fiduciary leader with nearly 3 decades of experience overseeing financial strategy, investment governments, and long-term stewardship of capital. I assume that there was anything that qualified them as library commissioner, it would be in the minutes. The first item had a comment from Lynn Davidson, and characterizes her as saying she was grateful to management. That would be a fair summary of the first 10 seconds of her comment. In fact, she emphasized the role of labor, and the only thing that management was receiving credit for was acknowledging that role of management. The fact that you've not acknowledged her comments in the minutes kind of undercuts that compliment. The worst example is Peter Warfield's comments on the general public comment. It says that they faced serious dangers with respect to the internet and social media. Again, that's a fair summary of the first 10 seconds. In fact, he had a long presentation on the dangers of privacy, the importance of privacy to library patrons, and the fact that you were negligent in not recognizing the importance of those issues without recognizing the importance of what he had to say about privatization, privacy. That was a complete misrepresentation. Jason Gibbs got 60 seconds of his comments represented, completely leaving out the negligence of management. Following that, there was a guy named Ruben Juarez who tried to follow up about data and emphasizing some of the points that Jason Gibbs has made. Being unable to misrepresent his comments, you turned around and just left him out. There's nothing that indicates that Ruben Juarez spoke under that item because you didn't want to summarize what he had to say, or you couldn't misrepresent it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
I would just ask that you amend the minutes to include Ruben Juarez's contribution to the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at protonmail.com. And I appreciate if you would give it correctly and not put the wrong one in, or just simply say he made a mistake with his provision of an email address, Library Users 2004 at protonmail.com. Those are the kind of games that you have played with these minutes and your other minutes as well. Also, we're at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-054, for those who care about confidentiality and privacy. The first comment that I'm listed as saying is rather insulting to me, and I think makes me sound like I'm insulting to you, as though you don't understand the value of public libraries. No, I didn't say that at all. I think you all care about public libraries in your way. What I said was that the library, I gave an encomium about the value and importance of the library, and that there were threats, and I hoped that also the independence of the agent of the commission would be something you also appreciate and value, as I do. I talked in general public comment about a whole range of things, and that included privacy audit, but it also included a whole range of other things that I would like to see at the library. These minutes are highly deficient in any kind of provision of details. I particularly have spoken about the Frances Haugen testimony 3.5 years ago at the Senate, and she was a Facebook whistleblower who basically said that Facebook prioritizes profits over safety, especially for teenagers. I mentioned that the Surgeon General of the United States talked about the danger to the mental health of social media in a report, an extensive report. I mentioned that Joe Biden had talked about the dangers of the internet and social media, and I talked about others who have talked about it, who are knowledgeable, and the point of it is that others with authority and knowledge and who have studied have talked about the dangers, and you shouldn't be touting uncritically, as you do in your publication at the library and as you do with little logos of all of the social media folks saying in a box, "Get social," or just the logo, that you shouldn't be uncritically touting something that is dangerous to society in some respects and to individuals in others. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Thank you. Hearing no further requests for comment, public comment is now closed. And we move to commission discussion and action on item number 2.
I would like to make a motion to amend the minutes to include Ruben Juarez's statement from last meeting.
I guess like without the specific language, like process-wise, is it better that we return the minutes and then revisit them next month, perhaps? Just because like it doesn't seem like we have specific language that we are approving, and so maybe there's a way that the Commission Affairs analyst could take a second pass, and then we could table this item until next month, perhaps? Just one suggestion.
I'm aligned to that.
I would like to second that motion.
I'll take the roll call for the commissioners to bring back the February minutes at the next commission meeting. President Calhoun,
Aye.
Vice President Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Wong,
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Commissioner Bolander,
Aye.
Commissioner Menon,
Aye.
Commissioner Keniston.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, commissioners. We now turn to item number 3. Discussion Vision 2023, a mid-year progress report. And with that, I turn it over to our city librarian.
Thank you, President Calhoun, and good evening, Library Commissioners. This commission meeting and this staff report this evening is notable because it marks 2 years since the Library Commission approved Vision 2030 as our strategic framework for guiding the future direction of the library, and to reflect our new mission to connect our diverse communities to learning, opportunities, and each other. The adoption of a new vision, mission, core values, and strategic priorities has also set in motion numerous organizational shifts for the department to become more entrepreneurial in how we connect with library patrons and respond to community needs with greater customer focus. Last fiscal year, you may recall that year one activities focused on the low-hanging fruit as we invested time and energy to gear up new work planning with support from the City Performance Unit and the Controller's Office to help us align our activities with the new strategic plan. In year 2 of implementation, I'm pleased to report we are making strides in both accomplishing our signature initiatives as well as continuing to smooth out how our leadership team manages the myriad projects and activities in support of Vision 2030. Our Chief of Public Services, Dolly Goyle, is here to present a mid-year progress report on current year activities that support our Vision 2030 implementation. Dolly?
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, President Calhoun and Commissioners. It is my pleasure to provide you with a mid-year update on our Vision 2030 strategic plan work. Next slide. First, let's talk about lessons learned so far throughout this process. When implementing a formative framework like Vision 2030, we're often building the plane while flying it, a process that relies heavily on design thinking and iterative growth. We heard and thank the Commission for their feedback last year, and we took a page from Vision 2030 to prioritize having a growth mindset to create a solid foundation for implementation of this large-scale effort. Now, as a refresher, we created project charters with a structure for management oversight to ensure accountability as we progressed. We also have a tracking system in place for project status, which is updated monthly. While we work hard to stay on track and meet our timelines, we understand that sometimes other factors come into play that impact the progress of a project. This may include staffing transitions or approval reviews from other departments, and we have learned to communicate and plan around these changes. When project needs change or circumstances evolve, we pivot and remain focused on outcomes. This has also led to much-needed efforts in streamlining workflows and open collaboration across different units and teams throughout the system. Essentially, our journey has been more than projects. It's helped us reflect on how we work in order to reach our goals. Next slide. Here, you're going to see our 13 committed Vision 2030 goals. Within each goal, we have 31 projects in flight, and 8 have been completed. These projects are cross-divisional collaborations throughout public services and special operations teams, and many serve multiple goals. As a result, the totals here by goal exceed the overall count. You'll see active and completed work spread across staff development, programming and offerings, data and analytics, partnerships, workforce culture, and systems and operations. Externally, we're advancing literacy and learning, safety and security, collections, patron experience, resource connections, infrastructure, and patron engagement. Today, I will highlight 5 projects from the Public Services team. Next slide. Before I take a deeper dive into each of these specific projects, here's a quick overview of the projects by Vision 2030 goals. We have collection right-sizing, which strengthens both collections and patron experience by aligning our materials and with community demand through data-guided practices and unified training. The kindergarten to college, also known as K-to-C, deposits, they serve as a vital resource connection, enhances partnerships, and these library-hosted deposit days are designed to build community trust and financial literacy. The San Francisco Unified School District and Fog Readers Partnership advances resource connection and literacy and learning by embedding free, accessible support directly into after-school settings. The Youth Advisory Board focuses on patron engagement and programming and offerings, centering youth voices to shape services and programs. And finally, the Youth Poet Laureate Program exemplifies our commitment to patron engagement, using civic leadership to directly uplift youth voices. Let's get into the details to learn more about each of these projects and our work so far this fiscal year. Next slide. The first highlighted project is collections right-sizing, which is essential for a positive patron experience. After the pandemic, the focus in libraries changed, and with staff attrition, collection maintenance became inconsistent, which left collections misaligned with community needs. Since then, we have been in a place of rebuilding, and in this fiscal year, we are prioritizing right-sizing collections, utilizing data-driven tools which incorporates district-level reporting and providing staff training so teams can proactively manage their collections. Our system-wide training is complete now, and staff have the tools needed to quickly access collection management data. This work advances our priority as thoughtful navigators and centers community while making data-informed decisions. And I want to give a special thank you to Vice President Commissioner Jones, who helped us make collections more intuitive, as well as the Collections and Technical Services team, also known as CTS. The CTS team worked on a relabeling youth series titles project to improve findability and create more intuitively organized collection, which ultimately increases access for all of our patrons in finding popular materials. This was a massive undertaking that recently completed, processing over 9,400 items at 28 locations. Now you can find your favorite youth series like Bluey, Lego, Marvel, Paw Patrol, Peppa Pig, and more. Thank you so much. Next slide. Beyond collections, we're meeting families where they are with financial empowerment. In partnership with the Treasurer and Tax Collection Department, also known as TTX, we set out to provide access to making deposits to a K-to-C account, providing financial literacy tools, and city resources for youth and families in equity zones. Together, we hosted our first deposit day at the Excelsior Library on December 17th last year. And on this day, we had a special visit from San Francisco Treasurer Jose Cisneros, along with a chance to make a deposit to a K-to-C account. And there were fun financial literacy lessons that day as well. Next slide. On February 3rd this year, we hosted another deposit day at the main library, which is our second pilot location. Treasurer Cisneros came again, and this time we had our city librarian, Michael Lambert, here to introduce the program to middle schoolers from Paul Revere Middle School. And we offered time to make deposits into K2C accounts and had a very engaging Scrabble financial literacy activity. Both pilot sites are currently active, and we are working closely with TTX and our partnering schools to set up the next deposit day. And I see them here in the audience. Thank you so much to our Chief of Branches team and finance team for making this possible. I know it's been a long effort. Thank you so much. Next slide. Okay, so let's shift to reading proficiency, another core equity focus as we try to address literacy gaps. Only 51.7% of SFUSD third graders read at grade level, and private interventions are often out of reach for vulnerable families. This year, we have partnered with the Department for Youth and Families, DCYF, with a goal to adapt the existing FOG Readers one-to-one model for pilot implementation at SFUSD beacon sites during after-school hours. We are focusing on equity zones and are currently in the process of starting this work at Malcolm X Academy in Bayview and planning on training beacon site staff very soon. This adapted program model is beneficial because beacon site staff have direct access to student progress data, and they can identify those most in need of literacy intervention. Their work is also in alignment with day school academics, and as a nice bonus, the library's FOG Readers team at the Bridge provides all materials, including FOG Reader kits and physical decodables. Thank you to our FOG team leader who is here. A lot of thank yous today. And next slide. In the spirit of supporting youth and families, we're also centering our teens as advisors and ambassadors for library offerings while expanding youth workforce development. You may not know, but San Francisco's teen community is about 13% of the population, and they are the future, and we want to provide them with an avenue to influence library services to better meet their needs. Last November, we launched a stipend-based youth advisory board, also known as a YAB, in partnership with San Francisco Youth Works. We currently have 10 interns who work in pairs to represent the library's 5 districts. This paid opportunity allows YAB interns to serve as advisors who are charged with evaluating library teen spaces, programs, and resources. They also visit schools and outreach to community to promote library resources and upcoming programs across San Francisco. They have also identified gaps in existing program offerings and planned a series of programs that meet the interests of their peers, which are currently being held this month and in April. Next slide. Here are some examples of what YAB leadership looks like on the ground with members at outreach events, meetings, and workshops. You'll also see flyers for upcoming YAB-created events at branches. All YAB suggestions are shared with all youth-serving staff to center youth voices and inform future iterations of our offerings to teens. I believe we have a group of our YAB leaders and members here this afternoon, and I wanted to give a special thank you to each of our YAB members for your thoughtful, insightful leadership and just taking the time to share your voices here with the library. It's so important. And thank you to our youth-serving librarians for supporting this inaugural effort. Next slide. The last project to highlight is the Youth Poet Laureate, which serves to amplify youth voices citywide through poetry. In San Francisco, we have a poet laureate, a drag laureate, but we lacked a formal platform for youth poets for this kind of civic engagement opportunity. We launched the San Francisco Youth Poet Laureate program in collaboration with 826 Valencia, Youth Speaks, and the Mayor's Office. We received 52 applications, and 20 were selected to participate in the cohort. In January, we selected a Youth Poet Laureate and a Vice Youth Poet Laureate. And right now, the cohort members are preparing for Spring Teen Poetry Slam events. Our Youth Poet Laureate is also preparing for the Nationals. Next slide. This has been an incredible journey to uplift youth voices and get them more engaged within our community. Since the Youth Poet Laureate Showcase, they have also participated in large-scale events like Bay Area Host Committee Super Bowl events. Last month's Drumbeats Heartbeats Community is one, and the upcoming Revolutionary Voices 25th Anniversary Program. Next slide. So as you can see, we're actively working on realizing Vision 2030 goals. We have a bit of work ahead, but we're excited about our path forward. We are working to establish clear performance metrics to track and quantify progress throughout all Vision 2030 goals. We're going to be aligning how we think about impact with the framework coming out of the mayor's office, focus on objectives and key results. We will continue to regularly evaluate current program offerings, refine, merge, or evolve them based on community needs and course correct where needed. Our staff ambassadors remain crucial to this work as a vital pulse check on frontline insights to ensure what we're striving for is hitting the mark for SFPL as a whole. Lastly, we're continuing to work on instituting a formal process to discontinue initiatives that no longer deliver high-value outcomes. Last year, we provided staff with the data and specific dashboard tools on things like circulation, walk-in traffic, and more. And now we're looking at how decisions are currently being made aside from the data to better understand the current state of the organization. This report shows how far we've come and how thoughtfully we're charting the path ahead. With clearer metrics, stronger alignment, and more disciplined prioritization, we are sharpening our focus on what matters most. Next slide. I wanted to thank the Commission for your guidance and for holding us accountable as we continue to deliver meaningful, measurable impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly.
Thank you both very much for the presentation. We will now open public comment on this item. As a reminder, please limit your public comment to this specific agenda item. Public comment is now open.
Yes, thank you very much, Commissioners. And of course, speaking as an anonymous citizen, stop the hate, stop the ignorance. Don't give money to the Friends of the Library. Don't accept money from the Friends of the Library. My goodness, did you understand that? And does this presentation gonna appear in the minutes as the PowerPoint only without any of the presentation from the staff or any of your questions? That's the way it appeared from last meeting when you had a budget presentation and nothing from the commission appeared in the minutes. You have to very desperately establish your elitism. Your anti-intellectualism goes without question. We have something now called right-sizing the collection, and then you're blaming it on the pandemic. Can that be anything but a euphemism, another consistent euphemism for book dumping? You know, this used to be a prime research library. Now it's a very expensive alternative to Netflix. And you think that the cherished feeling that the public has for you is going to survive this transition to dumbing down our citizens, dumbing down our students. Part of the presentation was that barely half of our third graders read at grade level. You can go right up to college level. People are being dumbed down, and it's because of the failure of this institution and the institutions like it to cherish our traditions of literacy. And what you do is you turn around and you look for things that will be popular instead of things that would be valuable. And in fact, people will eventually recognize that. They'll recognize that privacy is not respected, their traditions of intellect and culture are not respected, and they're going to find out that it's just as easy to stay home and look on their tablet. And you will have thrown it away. And in fact, Mr. Huang is right. He didn't understand it any more than I understood it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment?
Hello, Library Commission. I am a Youth Advisory Board intern, and on behalf of the Youth Advisory Board and all of San Francisco teens, I want to advocate for the library to continue to invest in all teen spaces in every library in every district. Teens deserve a space to be with friends, study, read, and have a safe space to be with themselves. And I'd like for all teens to have a safe space to call their own in their local libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment?
Peter Warfield, Executive Director. I wish the teens wouldn't leave because I have something to say with respect to that program as well that might interest teens. I want to agree with all that the previous speakers have said, all of them, on every item, but in particular, I have been talking about this library's program of debookification for years. What is right sizing except a euphemism for getting rid of? In employment, it means layoffs. In books, what can it mean? Getting rid of them, dumping them. What is a misalignment between what the folks presumably want and what you're providing? Almost all of these so-called progress reports are a bunch of blather, tech specific terms that talk about process and not about specifics what's being done. What kind of a misalignment was there? How did you figure out what the misalignment was? How did you figure out what people need or want? Some of the programs there that you had for reading look to me like something that might be suitable for a retirement community where the folks have to spend their time doing stuff that isn't really significant or important. How about looking into seeing whether the print collection is as accessible as the electronic collection, which it's not. More and more titles are electronic only, and more you find electronic available, but print hasn't even come yet, or 267 people are waiting for 32 copies. They might never even get to look at that book if you had a copy on reserve in the library, which you don't do. Many countries, if you're concerned about teens and young people in general, many countries, and certainly many responsible experts are very concerned about what's going on with social media, and for that matter, the internet. And when kids are committing suicide, as the article that I mentioned in the September 1st New York Times, that was a different article than the usual he said, she said of a lawsuit, one of which is going on right now. That quoted from specific communications between the teenager and the AI, and it helped him commit suicide. What are you doing to alert folks about the dangers of internet and social media?
Thank you. Is there any further public comment?
Yes, thank you. I long had trouble conceptualizing the euphemism thoughtful navigator, so I turned to AI and got a very inspiring answer from Grok. Here's a long quote. It's someone who treats navigation as an ethical and intellectual practice rather than a mechanical task. They plan rigorously but remain flexible. The map is not the territory. Anticipate ripple effects, what happens 2 steps or 2 decades downstream. Listen to the environment and to other people instead of imposing a preconceived route. Find beauty and meaning in the process itself, not just in arrival. You see this quality in the quiet sailor who double checks the log at 3 a.m., the leader who asks, what are we missing, before committing a team. The parent who guides a child without controlling them, or the researcher who follows curiosity wherever it leads while still keeping the bigger question in view. In short, to be a thoughtful navigator is to steer, not by force or fear, but by attentive presence. It is the art of moving wisely when no one else can see the full picture yet. Vision 2030 purports to apply this to library service, but it should apply even more toward leadership culture of the library, where everything is top down, everything is very siloed. They wallow in numbers. Big numbers good, small numbers bad. And in fact, they only know staff and their contributions through numbers. And of course, nobody ever considers the possibility of the future harm their visions may cause. Moving to one of the specifics in the Vision 2030 report, there was a mention of training. The Staff Training and Development Committee, STATCOM, has been in hibernation for a while. It consists of a chair and nobody else. There's apparently no funding for staff to attend workshops or sessions at conferences. The library cannot provide coverage to staff to attend the training they want within the library and city, or even provide adequate time to take online or pre-recorded training. So staff asks, they continue to ask, how can the library support us in attending professional conferences and taking professional level workshops so we can stay informed and relevant? They also don't understand what it means when your report says the staff development projects that 2 are in flight and 2 are completed. It's actually rather kind of traumatizing to some of us to hear in flight, because during our service as disaster service workers, we were constantly being told that we were building the airplane as we were flying it. And what that meant is we were in the middle of a big, big, confusing, anxiety-producing mess. But the library is not in a disaster emergency. It has had established systems that worked, and these have been replaced only by a vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Thank you. Hearing no further requests for public comment is now closed, and we move to commission discussion on item number 3. Commissioner Menon.
I wanted to thank the Youth Advisory Board members for all their work in the creative programming, and also recognizing the need for more teen centers in the different libraries. So thank you for that. Ms. Goyle, are there connections currently between the Youth Advisory Board's work and nonprofits serving youth in San Francisco?
I know they're working with YouthWorks. We have our advisory team here, so I'm not sure if they're working with more groups.
I also see our Youth Services Manager, Ileana Pulu. Would you like to comment on this question, Ileana, please?
Hello. So yes, they are working with different partner organizations. This is the first year of this, so a lot of it was kind of doing an environmental scan or a look at what is actually happening. And then the youth in this group, the Youth Advisory Board, thought about who they would want to reach out to, what organizations they would like to partner with, and then starting from there and then building that relationship. So some of those program flyers that you saw, medical first aid for youth, culinary arts skills, those are some of the ideas that came from this group to connect with those organizations. I would like to say that this group has been working out of Park Branch Library as well, because they attend workshops at John Adams campus with YouthWorks. So they're also learning a little bit more about the organizations that are in their districts that they're serving, but also citywide ones. Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Huang.
Thank you for the report. First of all, really supportive of all the projects that you highlighted. They very sort of like on brand for us in terms of the type of work that we do. I do need to understand 2 things. So help me tie together 2 things here. So if we were to flip back to the slide with the title Vision 2030 Projects by Goal, it was in the earlier part of the this particular presentation. It's with all the different categories and number of projects by each one.
Page 11.
Page 11?
Yeah, page 11. Can we show that on the screen by any chance? All righty, perfect, thank you. So my attention is drawn towards three boxes in particular, which is on the second row, data and analytics, workforce culture, and systems and operations, if only because of the sheer number of projects going on there. And if you just zoom out thematically, these are like the harder conversations, perhaps, like maybe sort of like less sexy for a public presentation, maybe, you know, hairier topics to deal with compared to the ones that we talked about, right? Like everyone loves talking about patron engagement and literacy and learning and these types of things. Can you double click a little bit more into what's going on there? Like, I think more broadly, the push I'm trying to give you is that I want, whenever we talk about this, I need the management team to feel comfortable coming to us with the guts of all the work that's going on, right? Things like workforce culture, like we need to talk about it, right? And I know that there's a lot of discussion happening there, but as we have seen the Vision 2030 presentation come back, it starts to feel a little bit like the same, which is, here's a cool new program that we did, here's a cool new program that we did, here's a cool new program that we did. And as much as you are saying like that we are actually trying to reinvent or change how we work to be more nimble and flexible and cross-train and sort of elevate people to new opportunities, I don't know where that is. And I suspect it's in those boxes that I highlighted that give us a little bit more visibility, but I don't know how to talk about that. Can you help me reconcile that feeling, please?
Sure. And you are on point as always. And the focus of this particular mid-year report is more public services focused. I would say, you know, the workforce culture, the systems and operations piece, those are going to fall more in library human resources, our special ops divisions, research strategy and analytics. And, you know, many of these specific projects are very much in flight. We will be in a better position at the conclusion of this fiscal year. You know, we're developing a cadence of coming to the commission twice a year to talk about Vision 2030. So I anticipate at the conclusion of this fiscal year, we'll be in a better position to report out on some of these specific goals and activities. That being said, Maureen, Randy, you know, you're welcome to speak to this.
Thank you. Good questions. Of course, I always love to talk about data and analytics and workforce culture. So many of the data and analytics projects really are tied to some of the deep dives that are happening, understanding what is the turnover rate of our patrons, at what point are we needing to re-engage with them in order to make sure that they stay active. And I know that our analytics team, including Randy and Yoon, and this is just one example, have been putting a lot of work into that, collaborating with our folks in public affairs and marketing to understand different types of outreach that we should be doing, and then figuring out what is working with that, and then taking the larger lessons from that information and trying to apply it to other approaches. But Randy, are there other data and analytic projects that you want to highlight? And then I can speak to some workforce ones after that.
Yeah, Maureen mentioned kind of we're finishing up a churn analysis, which has been very mathematically challenging for us because of the limitations of our data. But it's going to hopefully, as an example, provide great fruit to our marketing team. Because at a certain point, when a person churns out of using the library, they're pretty much gone at that point. And we don't have good ways to sort of intervene on that and remind them, hey, look at all the great things we do. It would be great if you gave us another shot. It would be great if you did something, you know, that we offer. And so there's a certain amount of time from day zero that sort of they do something to day 1,000, that we never see them again. And right now, it's kind of in the range of about 75 days is what we're seeing. And so we're kind of finishing the touches on that, and we're going to work with the marketing team to then develop a campaign to try to intervene on that earlier, right? So that folks don't churn out of our system quite as frequently. That's a great example. We have limited staff in our data analysis unit, so the next one up will be sort of a redo of our equity zone mapping. And so we're looking at ArcGIS, and we're going to talk about which areas of the city are most in need of our services from a library perspective. Currently, we're using other departments when we talk about equity zones, and the state of California's as well, but we don't look at something like, for example, literacy block by block. So that's a good example of that. And then also, as far as workforce development, there are a number of projects that the HR team is working on. I have the list. I don't have all 33 always right in front of me, but happy to say they're working on employee shout-outs for folks to sort of hype up when an employee does something well and give an opportunity to, for others to chime in on the good work that they're doing. New patron registration insights and tracking is another one we're working on. And setting a standard number of trainings that staff need to do. I just got that email this week from our HR team. So there's quite a few projects going on here. Many of them require all back of the house teams to kind of work through it and then follow up as needed, and then take it to the management team, kind of for final application.
Gotcha. Super helpful. Thank you. The only other feeling I'll just leave as a comment, I know at the outset we were like 40 is a lot, but the fact that we're pacing kind of well seems promising. So that's wonderful, and just appreciation for the push to sort of start with like the end goal and sort of get everyone to kind of move in that direction. So I always find those moments difficult to try to like change the behavior, but it seems like it's working, and some pretty interesting results. So appreciate it.
Commissioner Jones?
Commissioner Wong, I loved what you just said, and I think one of the things maybe the team could think about, even Randy, as you were saying, even in workforce culture, there's like the shout-out system that you guys are building. I wonder if there's kind of like some themes to pull out. Like a lot of this is the how you're accomplishing it, but are there any kind of headlines to pull out that you guys are trying to win this year? So for example, in workforce culture, is it celebration and collaboration? And then the how is a shout out tool and a X, Y, and Z. And I think that might help this audience, because I don't know if we always need to be in the weeds of the exact mechanisms on how you're building those muscles, but I think aligning and getting visibility to the what you're trying to solve or build in kind of these pillars, that might be a nice vantage point for at least this group. So maybe that's a follow-on to this. Because I think as you're thinking about the KPIs and the how to measure, I think you guys are going to have to think about, are you measuring the how? Like, so are you measuring the engagement level of this shout-out tool? I'm just going to stick with this shout-out tool. Or are you measuring like workforce engagement? And how you're measuring that are these three things. So I think there's a little bit of maybe like pulling up that might help you guys get to better KPIs and to ensure that as you're building out the projects, that they're supporting the goals. And not just these headline goals of the vision, because those are so high level, right? That's our umbrella, but the kind of micro pillars underneath it that are supporting it. I think that might help this group and just your building of the architecture of your KPIs.
That's very helpful feedback. Thank you.
I do want to just, though, agree and celebrate. These are great projects. I think that Shelley and team, I'm so proud of the work that you guys did. I know 9,000 books had to be cataloged. I would love, again, as you're thinking about the measuring of this, let's have it be active. Let's have it be, what are we learning from the branches about engagement on a parent being able to find Paw Patrol all in one place versus all over the children's section? So let's have it be more of this engagement model than like, we're going to measure if people take out more Paw Patrol books. I mean, yes, that probably is how that's like a tangible, like, did it work? But also, like, what are our patrons telling us? Are like, that was amazing. I could, more effectively curate for my kids. So I think just thinking about those soft touches as well as we're going through this process. And although Pete does feel like, we're chipping away, we are kind of only like 25% there on a midpoint. And I'm just curious, as you're thinking about the remaining 75%, where do you anticipate the most headwinds in this landscape, where you don't feel like you're maybe going to fully deliver?
Quite frankly, our greatest headwind right now is the budgetary environment and having more resource constraints being imposed upon us every day. And this is going to be a very tough budget year for the city. We are not entirely immune to that. And what that most deeply impacts is our staffing capacity. Everything that we do as a public library is labor intensive and dependent on our workforce. And as our ability to fill positions slows down, that will have an impact on our ability to accomplish any of this work.
Thanks.
Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you, Dolly, for the mid-year progress report, and it is a progress report. We're still working on it. There were a lot of information, really great information. One of the things that I would have liked is to, with slide 11, maybe underlining which ones have been completed, and maybe like a small brief on like the highlights or the points of the items that were completed, and how the programs that you talked about, where do they plugged in? And I'm gonna just talk about like the youth advisory, where within the vision, just visually, like, is it literacy and learning? Is it collaboration? So a little bit more of like direction, so like a mapping of where things fall into. And then I do have questions about the youth advisory. And this is just out of curiosity. What is the process for selecting the youth? How are they selected? And what are some of the tasks? I know that there was, and I don't know if I misheard, but there was a stipend involved. Is that the fog? Okay. So, and what level of participation do they get in the different units within the library? So thank you to the youth commissioners, youth advisory board who are here. Shout out anyone, future librarians, hopefully. So everyone's laughing. You never know, right? So so that's a question that I have. Then you also talk about, I believe it was the K to C. I'm familiar with the program a little bit, and it's a program that the city has. How's the partnership with the library? Are we providing information to the families? Are we just leading any components of the K2C? And then how, like, and I probably have more like questions that we can talk about later. But it seems like, yes, we did have the city go into those branches and talking, but it doesn't really tell us like what is our role as the public library besides disseminating information and and the partnership. So maybe elaborating a little bit more on that will be great. And then I'm like, because it has a lot. And I think that a lot of the things that you talked about and that we have accomplished, I mean, I've been able to see like the youth poet laureate. It's amazing. It's great. We've seen the results. And I think my question is more like, how are we assessing and keeping and like a pre-evaluation of either process or the engagement? And what kind of data are we collecting? So that's all.
Should we start with the Youth Advisory Board?
I loved all those questions. You may have to ask them again. So one of them was, how did we recruit the Youth Advisory Board? So over the summer, we put out flyers for if folks were interested in being part of the Youth Advisory Board, and through the partnership with SF Youth Works. So SF Youth Works is a youth workforce development organization that places interns in city departments to learn a little bit more about what that looks like. So kind of the comment about like, are all these young people going to be librarians? Maybe, maybe not. And that's okay. They're learning about the library, or they're learning about Park and Rec, or they're learning about the PUC system. And that way they can be better involved citizens. They'll understand structure. And for the library in particular, we're really interested in building those relationships with other city departments so people know that. When you are working at the library, you may have wanted to be a librarian your whole life, or you may not even have known that this was a potential for you living in an expensive city. It is very much a potential. It is something that teens, once they graduate from high school or receive their GED, can come in and then be representative of their community. So in terms of recruiting the Youth Advisory Board, it was kind of a twofold. We talked to the teens that we already knew. We talked to some of our summer youth volunteers, and then we put a call out in general. So that was a little bit about the process. What was another question? Do you remember?
The engagement process, what are some of the?
Oh yes, some of the duties that they hold, some of the responsibilities. So what they do is they meet as a group every week to kind of discuss some larger kind of citywide, I think we would like to say, topics, or they learn a little bit more about the library, or they go on field trips. They went to SF State recently. They got a tour of the J. Paul Leonard Library and the archives there. They also toured the SF History Center here as well. We've been putting them in touch with different parts just so that they understand how the library works. And then some of their duties when they're back at their branches is to evaluate the library spaces for teens, to evaluate programs, to attend those programs, to share that information back with us, to attend some of our college prep workshops, and to give us that real teen feedback. And then another one that they do is go out and promote programs. So they were big promoters of our Tween Winter Read program this year. They offered recommendations on what the prizes would be. My colleagues and I had never heard of what a Smiskey was. And now we know. And now we know that they're popular. And now we know that they lit up the faces of young 10 to 18-year-olds when they won those as our mystery grab bag prize. We knew about Labubus, and we found out that that wasn't the thing, that the Smiskey was the thing. So some of this stuff, you feel like you're there, you're ready. I have loved serving teens ever since I was a teen, when I started with the library. But there are things that you're not going to know. And so having a youth advisory board and having teen services librarians that are available to hear the feedback and to act on it has been pivotal in this process. Next question.
it was more of how the youth leadership fits into the project goals, and that's it.
So I would say with the literacy and learning pieces, not only participating, but also developing that, and then youth workforce development too. We want to make sure we continue those pipelines to grow opportunity with teens, but also uplift the library as a possibility, and just as a center of your community, to always remember that. So there's a lot of centering community, a lot of patron experience, engagement kind of built into all of that, the process. It's a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bolander?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the report. Lot of progress since last time, I must say. I think one of the things that we're seeing here is the challenge of shifting a culture. How many of you know what I've ever heard of an OKR in your entire life? Especially in public service, it like never, well, of course, the ones that know about it. But I just want to like take a step up, right? So organizational transformation is hard. The status quo is probably the most powerful thing in the universe. Most of the staff here has never been at this corporate type OKR-y thing that the mayor wants to do, right? And he loves it because it's all Silicon Valley, blah, 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 right? Most of Silicon Valley fakes it till it makes it. We can't do that here, right? So the powerful thing about this is that you're seeing right now how the culture is trying to shift in order to be a culture of outcomes and a culture of performance. That is rare in a public institution. I can't name another one. And anyone can name another one other than this one that even attempts this? And even in the city and county of San Francisco? Anyone? Bueller? Doesn't happen, right? So we lead the charge on this. And I just want to really be very thoughtful and thank the staff for this. This is not easy to do. There are companies that completely crater trying to do transformation like this. And we are going to see in the next 6 months or 12 months how this is going to transform us. And the thing about like, what are we measuring? What are we going to do? That's what these OKR things are about. And if you haven't read the book, it's super boring. Don't worry about it. But we'll get a primer on it. So I anticipate next time we will have those objectives and key results by program. And I think the thing that's been really powerful watching this is that the staff is now starting to get more engaged with. Again, this is hard. Like, who even know like strategy? Like half the people, well, not half, 99% of people in the world don't understand strategy at all. And it really is very telling how well we're doing with this. And it doesn't seem that way, and it never does, right? Everyone's like, oh, I do all these things and these tactical things, right? But this is really going to be transformational for us. So I'm very proud of the staff, everyone trying to do this. It's hard, harder than you can ever imagine, honestly. I do this for a living and transform companies, billion-dollar companies, and they fail at this all the time. It's because the people don't want to do it, and you guys, I know, want to do it. So thank you so much, Dolly, for this, leading the charge. I'm looking forward to way better reports. I love prettier pictures. I want pretty pictures too, because I'm one of those guys. I like pretty pictures. That's what management needs. Pretty pictures and 3 bullet points, because that's all we can figure out. So thank you so much, and keep up the good work.
Do you mind if I just jump in a quick moment to build on what you're saying, Jari? I think it's, you are definitely talking about a culture shift for, up and down the organization and across the organization. And I really want to champion Randy, Graham, Mike Perlstein on the research strategy and analytics team for challenging all of us to think differently. And sometimes it's a bit about how do we think differently about the amazing things that we do so we can show where we're moving the needle and challenge ourselves and listen really hard to what we're hearing the community wants as well, even if it starts with what is the checkout information on particular types of books. What is that story that it's telling us? And I think that we are definitely marching in the right direction on all of that and always looking for inspiration. I will give a little shout out to the Department of Public Works. They are big into OKRs.
Are you kidding me?
And so, yeah.
You mean I have to actually go tour that? I gotta. I don't believe. I don't believe you. No, kidding. Of course I believe.
But yeah, and that's the other benefit of having such a strong team who have a lot of experience across the city is having those connections and looking for those pearls of wisdom so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel around that.
mean,
so I'm super proud of the
Yeah,
team.
it should be. And you mentioned the budgetary, whatever the hell we're going to call this. I don't know. I don't even want to use catastrophic words, but this is when this stuff matters the most, right? And it's hard. I mean, the hard thing about hard things is that these are best bad choices. I wish everyone like money rained down from everything, right? And it is with thoughtfulness that I see this organization, navigating this. And it's because, I mean, who else does NPS scores in any other? I mean, come on, look at this is like the craziest, greatest stuff ever, right? I'm a fan of Randy. He's a great guy. Anyway, and we're going to hear more about that. But let's just really be thoughtful about that. Like, everyone beats up about this and that. Just think through, like, this is hard, and it is going to get harder. So thank you.
Commissioners, library leaders, thank you all so much. I just want to harken back to a few moments ago where we actually had someone, a youth, come up and share with us what they need most. And so in all of this work, let's not forget, and I know you won't, who we are truly here to serve. All of us, I would like to think as a librarian I have a particular perspective, but I can't agree more with Commissioner Bolander. This is hard work, and not every library is doing it. For that, I am sure. But again, when we're talking about these programs, I know that the people that we try to serve are first, middle, and last in every conversation. So thank you for all of that. And of course, as a librarian, I do want to just get super specific about this project where a team of catalogers took 9,000 items and transformed them into a way that they are truly even more accessible. And we cannot do anything if the things that we do are inaccessible. So that work is truly transformational. It is truly scholarship. And it is truly what we need more of. So we can't do this work without everyone at the library, but that project never moved an inch without folks who can take those items in hand and transform them in ways that make them even more accessible. So I'm grateful for that specific kind of work. But it's seen in every project. So with that, thank you. We now turn to item number 4. Oh, excuse me. Is that correct? Yep. We now turn to item number 4. Discussion and public comment. Discussion on public service performance measures. I turn the meeting over to the city librarian once again.
Thank you, President Calhoun. Library staff appreciate this opportunity to present our public services mid-year report. Every year coming out of the budget, we like to provide a robust report to give you an examination of our key performance indicators, library circulation, program attendance, foot traffic, and with more detail to share, I'm pleased to introduce our Chief Analytics Officer, Randy McClure.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I think this is my first time formally, and some of you, welcome to the commission, and I'm happy to be here. So I'm going to speak tonight about our public services performance measures, speaking of metrics, and I'm going to walk you through about 6 or 7 of those that we regularly track and have for some time, and give you some detail on what they're telling us. Next slide, please. First and foremost, we track our patron satisfaction. This has been going on for about 3 years. Every month, we send a randomized survey to a sample of all of our active cardholders, and we ask a battery of core questions. which you see on the screen in front of you. These 9 areas are then ranked by them, and we receive that feedback from them. And we ask this every month. It's been about 3 years at this point. The takeaway here, as it has been when I've shown you this before, is it remains with a lot of green on the screen, green representing excellent and satisfactory marks, the light green neutral, and unsatisfactory and poor far to the left. The numbers are really good, and they are improving, if you can believe that. As you can see, it ranges from a score of about 9.5 for staff assistance. The thing that makes me nervous about that is I have trouble seeing that going any higher, right? It's just so good. Our digital and physical materials come in above 9.1, along with our cleanliness and maintenance due to the great work of our facilities team. Safety and security is just above 9.0, and then we have technology and programs and library website, also technology there, just below 9.0, and hours of operation, which probably are the most fixed thing we have at this time, at 8.59. And so a lot of good news there. Next slide, please. We also track it year by year. And again, as a data geek and nerd, I would probably be remiss if I didn't tell you this, that all of these numbers are probably within our margin of error, and there's no statistically significant difference between them. However, I'm also going to point out that since FY24, they've all gone up. So even if it is within that margin of error, they are not going down, they are going and moving upward. So that's good news too. These are yearly averages, and you'll note at the top there, we also have the Net Promoter Score metric, which is very good. If you're not familiar with it, it basically asks if you would recommend the library to your colleagues and friends. All good news there. Next slide, please. As part of our patron satisfaction survey, we also offer the opportunity for our patrons to give us qualitative feedback. And so, as you can see here, we do get about 1/3 of every survey. Folks give us that feedback and they write it out. And about 4 out of 5 of those comments that they give to us are completely positive. You're doing a great job. I love this thing or that thing or the programs or this or staff member, et cetera. All those types of things. About 22% of the comments do contain constructive criticism of some sort, often paired with how much they love us. So you can see how that breaks out here. General gratitude is predominantly part of the comments, but then we do get other things as well that might be more specific feedback that we can then pass along as needed to the right division within the library. Next slide, please. This is something we track on a monthly basis. This is our number of card holders within our system, and we divide it up into 3 buckets. The first bucket is at the bottom in the darker, I guess that's almost teal or some kind of blue-green, which shows, unless my eyes are failing me here, which shows our 1-year active card holders. So they have had activity within the last calendar year, from February of 26 back to February of 25, and that's roughly 350,000 card holders. Then there's about another little more than 100,000 card holders who we haven't seen for the last year. This harkens back to the churn comments I was making earlier on the previous agenda item. We'd like to see them, but they are still considered active by the California State Library definition of activity, and so that group is about 100 to 110,000 folks at this time. And then we have a third group at the top there in gray, which is about 50,000 folks whose cards have not yet expired, but we haven't seen them for 3 years. And so it totals about 511,000 card holders as of February. You can see it's up about 9% year over year, and that's good news because we are seeing other positive momentum in other metrics as well. If you look at the San Francisco population as of 2024, through the census, it was about 827,000. Of this group of 511,000, about 400,000 of those are San Francisco residents. So we're a little shy of half of San Francisco residents being card holders at this time. Hope that makes sense. Okay, next slide, please. Circulation. Obviously, we track this very closely. And we've hit records the last 2 fiscal years, fiscal 24 and 25. We are currently on track with a 3.5% increase year over year to hit another record this year, projecting at 14.8 million. I was just reporting to the M team, get everybody moving those books, 200,000 more so we can get to 15 million this year, which we have never done in the history of this organization. So as you can see, Every month, it's a little hard to see, but every month this year has been over 1.2 million in circulation. That's 8 months this fiscal year. It was 8 of the 12 months last fiscal year. So you can see it's just kind of ticking up a little bit as we move forward, and folks cannot get enough of our materials. Next slide, please. Obviously, we also track visits, and visits have continued to tick upward since coming out of the pandemic now 5 years ago when we started reopening. Year to date has seen a 5.6% increase, almost 6% there in visits versus the previous fiscal year. And I'm happy to report that it's been 59 straight months of year-over-year increases since we started reopening out of the pandemic. So good news there, people are continuing to come back. You'll see the next slide talk about programming. Part of the reason for that is very much the programming that we're offering and continuing to increase our numbers on that as well. Currently, system-wide, 2.9 million through eight months of this year, projecting 4.6 million by the end of the fiscal year. And then you see the red line coming across. We also track visits per open hour with the understanding that it sort of normalizes our data a little bit and accounts for seasonality. Okay, next slide, please. You see here, this is our programming, again, coming from the reopening after the pandemic. The blue represents youth programming, and the orange represents adult programming for fiscal year 26. The smaller boxes on top are projected. We haven't quite done those yet, but they're roughly expected to be the case. And you can see we're projecting about 14,761 programs by the end of this fiscal year, which would be about a 5 or 6% increase over last year. Next slide, please. Wi-Fi connections. So this is one that's interesting to us because it's actually going down a little bit. My professor at Berkeley would have said statistics are noisy, and that might be what's going on here. There may not be an actual given reason for this, but we are seeing a 3% decrease year over year in our Wi-Fi connections. We know we have a strong speed and availability throughout the city, but we are keeping an eye to see if there's anything behind this. Year over year, it's a little bit down. And then computer usage, however, is up 6.5% year over year. This is activity where folks come into the buildings, make reservations to use our laptops and other computers, and are able to use that. And you can see the average session length for those. Excuse me, I didn't say next slide. Next slide, please. There it is. See, it's up 6.5%. The average session length for those sessions is about 50 minutes per session, and we have almost 900 terminals available throughout the system. So those are some high-level metrics that we track as an organization. Obviously, a lot of other things underlie all of this, but these are kind of the general ones that we look at with the overall health of the library system at this point. So I'll stop there and gladly receive any feedback or questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you for the presentation. We will now open public comment on this item. As a reminder, please limit your public comment to this specific item. Public comment is now open and correct.
Hi, one question I have that you might have too. I know that with our patron database, it registers an active account if the patron record changes in some way due to circulating a physical item, and whether or not the data that he had would indicate if somebody had used a database or had used an e-resource as well. Because I know that when we were renewing accounts, oftentimes they had gone like a full 4 years and they only discovered it because they tried to use an e-resource. They live remotely and don't come into the library but are using e-resources. So I know that the database that we use for patron registration didn't indicate any of the e-resource use. So I'm just curious whether or not that's reflected. And then I wanted to go to the quotation of folks cannot get enough of our material. That sounds like right sizing to me. I mean, it sounds like the library is doing very well in that respect. And then the nice thing about coming to these meetings is I learned I hadn't heard of a net promoter score, and it does sound like a very valuable metric. I always, as a reference librarian, I just always thought that whenever I encountered a patron, have I provided them service that they would that I fulfilled what they needed and they would come back again. And that was always just my model as an individual. And there would be times when you would see, maybe it was cringe when you saw the service someone else was giving and knowing they didn't get it, and realize that I always thought that the best outreach was the best reference encounter. And I always approached every encounter that way. And I hope that there's some way of also measuring that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
Yes, thank you very much, Commissioners. Speaking as an anonymous citizen, of course, and stop the hate, stop the ignorance. Don't give money to the Friends of the Library. Don't accept money from the Friends of the Library. You'll notice that the president of this commission introduces public comment with the implied threat that the relevance of our comments will be narrowly construed and we might be ruled out of order. Really? Don't all of these issues overlap with each other? And isn't that of the essence? At the last meeting, you had a very vibrant discussion of the budget. And in fact, Commissioner Jones had some very crucial things to say about the budget. Doesn't she think that she would like to look in the minutes and be reminded of those comments? The discussion you just had on the item before this, on the mid-year report, was a very interesting discussion about how you should be concerned with the details. You should know how things work. You should be thoughtful. You should be accessible. Will that discussion be reflected in the minutes? I certainly hope so. And I will think, and I hope that you will take that to heart. You have been dumbing down yourselves so long and so persistently that as we approach this crucial level of library transition, I don't know if it's a transition or not. I hope it's a transition. If it's a transition, we absolutely need to be thoughtful about it. And it's not just about patron satisfaction. It's about the image and the role of the library. And, be open to all public comment. Wouldn't that be nice? Thank you.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@protonmail.com. And with more privacy, P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. In high school and maybe junior high, I read a wonderful book that I understand is on college syllabuses in some cases. It's called How to Lie with Statistics. And I'm sure that most of the statistics the library is going to present are certainly going to show what a great job the library is doing, and maybe it is, but maybe it isn't. So the first question is, who was asked? At a previous meeting, I asked Randy McClure, where was the survey provided? And he had mentioned that to increase accuracy, it had only been provided online. I hadn't seen any patron survey in going to branches and the main library. So all these questions are being answered presumably by people who may never set foot in the library. In any case, I was glad to see that library workers, librarians, got the top rating. Unfortunately, very consistently, the lowest rating went for hours, presumably hours open. And that's an issue. By the way, I think more hours means you're going to have more people browsing books and so on. what's the meaning of general gratitude with 100% positive? Sounds pretty meaningless to me. Of course, somebody who's coming to the library or using it is going to be grateful for something. Interesting, hours for the web and for technology was so-called miscellaneous things, 40% positive, pretty darn low. Print has been very strong in coming back from COVID, and especially the more hours you offer, typically the more hours you're going to have print. But even so, print has held steady, according to your stats, at 54% of circulation, and technology, even though you're spending more money on those materials, and those are the more recent ones, is less than 50% at 45 point something. How did you measure visits per open hours? I've never heard that one before. It's not a standard measure that I'm familiar with from years of looking at stats. And the catalog, I have a question about the catalog, and you're not measuring newspaper.
Thank you. Is there any additional further public comment? Hearing no further requests for comment, public comment is now closed, and we move to commission discussion on item number 4.
Maybe just a heads up for Randy that Commissioner Menon may cause a blip in your numbers for March visits next month. She had her son, who's learning how to drive, visit a great number of branches. In all seriousness, numbers tell a story. And the story that's being told here is not just a thorough one, but a terrific one. So I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bollian.
Thanks as usual, Randy and the team. Near and dear to my heart, as everyone knows. I talk about it all the time. What I wanted to do is talk about slide 27, patron satisfaction. Kind of hard to get it up any higher, right? But what I would like to know is, these bottom 3, typically, there's usually going to be some sort of action plan to improve the bottom 3 and to get them up to what these other ones are. I do like the fact, obviously, staff is always highly ranked, and I agree it's going to be pretty tough, but I think they can do it. Let's get them to 10.0. Physical materials and digital materials seem to be strong as usual. So do we have any improvement plans, any OKRs around the bottom 3 to get, and I'm obviously the website thing is my personal pet peeve, but if there's anything that we've got any programs on that.
Yes, excellent question. I'm going to insert myself here. So I'll start with the hours of operation because it's fresh in my mind. Our industry publication, Library Journal, just released their latest issue, and there's a section on budget and finance and looking at the landscape of libraries across the country. One of the benchmark measures that they listed was average hours of operation for a given municipality. And the average was 41.9. In San Francisco, we average 52.1 hours of operation per location. So we are 25% above the national average. And that really tracks with the fact that we're the only major city in the state of California that has all of our library locations open 7 days a week. So we are constrained in how many staff we can afford to pay to keep the doors open and the lights on. So where we can improve the hours of operation is through our every 5 years open hours assessment. And when we renewed the Library Preservation Fund in 2022, we committed to coming back and doing that work. So we will commence that in 2028. So that is a very thorough process. Randy was once in the controller's office and helped us do that before he joined our team. But that consists of intercept surveys at every library location, public meetings in every supervisorial district. So it's a big lift. We will do that work. With regards to programming classes and events, This is perhaps a standalone presentation that we could bring back in the future. I know Dolly's team, her administrative analysts, they've done a pretty deep dive in looking at programming, what we're offering, times of day, average attendance per hour of the day, day of the week. So that is something that we are looking at currently. With regards to the website, I'm going to yield to our acting CIO, Randy.
Yeah, I think I need a new job then. We certainly understand that the web team does a great job with what they have in front of them, right? And they have a small staff, and they have constant activities that they're keeping up with. In fact, currently, we're working on a new ADA rule from the Department of Justice that will happen about a month from this week, right? And so it has to be accessible. All of the different everything we put up on the website needs to be accessible. So as one of the things my team is thinking about with respect to the next 5 years of IT in the library, it's being not only more innovative than we've ever been, but also thinking about how digital natives access our services primarily through the phone and the website. And that is not how that website was built. And so it is ripe for a rethinking, but it does take time. I would love to see in the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years, really a redo of our website with that thought in mind, because what we are seeing is more and more digital natives who cannot access everything we have. Yep.
Maybe just a follow-up to that, I would imagine that many of the things that you, in a sense, serve up through the website are third-party tools as well. So you're using you're using a proprietary catalog, for instance, right? All of the e-resources may have multiple interfaces. So there's a lot of work that, of course, you can do, but it isn't a wholly owned and operated and designed system inherent to any particular library. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Wong.
Rainey, thank you as always. I know the Wi-Fi connections thing is like kind of a mystery right now, but do you have any like best guesses? Like the only one I can think of is, I mean, the chances of what I'm about to say actually being accurate is like very, very low, but just bear with me. It's like, I could see a scenario in which like overall cell service coverage over San Francisco has improved such that the need to connect to Wi-Fi once you're in a branch building goes down. And over time, like you can see Wi-Fi sessions driving down as a result, or like our buildings somehow change in that they like block. Like down here, we don't get much like cell data. We probably have to use Wi-Fi, but if that were to magically go away, right, then the need to connect to Wi-Fi would be like, for me, it would be like one fewer session. Like any other just like fun ideas, like entertain me for 10 seconds here.
Not fun if it's going down for me, but some of I have at least a hypothesis that has not been tested. Some of the comments that we've received says it's slower than it used to be, and I think maybe that's a relative sort of interpretation of Wi-Fi. We've always been very fast. 300, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 megabits per second, which is faster than most home internet services. But maybe if that's gotten better, it now feels slower to folks using the Wi-Fi, and that's causing a little bit of a decrease. Again, hypothetical, don't have an answer for you other than that, but it's something we're tracking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Can I add like a consumer, almost patron view of the data? I wonder are you seeing, because what's interesting is the device engagement is flat, like your same usage, but then, or it's up 6%. So the people who are using devices are there and they're using them more for device. I'm wondering, are the people who are coming who don't need a device just being present and using it in an analog sense? You're getting a book, you're getting a newspaper, and you're actually using the library as a third space, away from digital, like away from, I mean, that is like a very like consumer mindset, but I'm just wondering, is there a little like macro society moment here where like libraries are a place to also escape Wi-Fi, you know? And so, again, that's just where my mind goes when I read this, but I'm not saying it's right, just like Randy. I don't know if you're right. I don't know if I'm right, but that's what, I'm just wondering if there's a macro moment happening where people are like, oh, I don't want to get on Wi-Fi. I'm going to read a book, or like, I'm just going to talk to my friend or whatever. So I don't know. That's how I view that data, but just to add on. I'll go just while I'm on. First of all, I love your website push. I think that I always also think one of the best benchmarks is the competition. And so as you're thinking about the next 3 to 5 years, knowing that that vision's gonna take a while and will be a really heavy lift, like get really curious about everyone else and like, study the masters and be like, we want to look and feel and be as accessible as X library. So the competition I always feel like is like a good place to start when you're thinking about reinvention, because we don't have to just do it all ourselves. I think one of the things that's so interesting about this data is it's amazing to have it as like a point in time, but I'm curious like how we use it also as goal setting. So like, where do we want to be as you're looking at the mix of CIRC, digital versus physical? Where do we want to be? Because we're always kind of looking at it over time. But as you're thinking about it as using it from a forward-looking perspective, how do you think about like, because I read that, I'm like, oh, this is great, I think. Or, does it align to what we wanted it to be? So I think that would just be like my one, I know we've kind of talked about this in the past, but I think my one just like continue to push is like, well, where do we want these metrics to be? Obviously, from a patron satisfaction, we're pretty much there. But kind of some of the other measures, instead of thinking about them over time, like where do we set targets against them to actually look back and say, oh my gosh, yes, we're up to last year and we delivered against our goal or our target. Just so, I don't know, it's like more meaningful, if you will.
I think the best example of that thought process or, really being data-driven in informing service delivery, you can look at circulation. So we had what I call peak book in 2012, calendar year 2012. So physical circulation was at 11 million. And you can see today that physical circulation is effectively half of what it once was, and digital has more than filled that space and continues this upward trajectory of growth. So that is influencing the collections right-sizing project that Dolly was talking about earlier. And, the reality is over time, the demand for physical collections will continue to go down. You cannot argue with the data. And so we're going to ride that long tail of our physical collections, but in real time, we want to continue to meet our residents' need for physical collections. So we have a formula for how we approach the most popular materials. And I believe we have a 2-to-1 holds ratio, is that correct? So if we have a given title and the demand is really strong, Shelley's team, they're just automatically buying more titles so that people don't have to wait as long. And so we are trying to be more customer focused and buying collections that people really want to come into the library and check out instead of just buying everything, the most esoteric nonfiction title that is dead on arrival and it never circulates one time. And so we're going to continue to try to evolve as an organization and imbue that data-driven mindset into informing everything that we do.
One last scan of this august body on the dais. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we now turn to item number 5, discussion on the city librarian's report. Mr.
Thank
Lambert.
you, President Calhoun. We have a number of presentations this evening, and I'm pleased to introduce our first presenter. Hai-Ching Chen is the program manager for the Chinese Center, and Haiqing is going to tell us about our recent Lunar New Year celebrations, celebrating the Year of the Fire Horse. Haiqing?
Good evening, Library Commissioners. My name is Haiqing Chen. I am the program manager of the Chinese Center at the main library. I really wish the youth can stay to listen to my presentation and know how much fun to become a librarian. And the cultural engagement from the community really make my day every time. Lunar New Year is one of the most important holidays in AA and HPI cultures. This year, the library offered a series of programs and events to celebrate with our community and to strengthen our role as a culture amplifiers and community catalyzer. Tonight, I will share highlights from events, programs, and partnership across the library system. So last month, Shana Sherman, the African American Center managers, present the 4th annual Drumbeat Heartbeat Community as One. Today, I'm happy to share photos from the event. As the city librarian, Michael Lambert shared, the goal of a Drumbeat Heartbeat is to challenge the narrative that our African American and Asian American communities cannot coexist, and instead show how we thrive together. This embodies our mission to connect diverse communities to learning, opportunity, and to one another. The Chinese Center. Okay. The Chinese Center offers a couple of programs celebrate AA and HPI culture and Lunar New Year. We welcome acclaimed violinist winner of the Paganini and Munich International Violin Competitions for a rich, immersive culture performance with the support by our partner, Chao Su Kun Cultural Heritage Foundation. We also host a tea culture program featuring traditional arts and hands-on activities supported by our partner, the Asian Cultural Heritage Exchange Association, our city librarian, Michael Lambert, and Chinese Consulate General Zhang Jianming also joined us to celebrate the holiday with the community. Both programs drew full attendance. Additionally, librarian Kyle organized a traditional music concert performed by second-generation Asian American high school students, which we are very proud to support as the next generation of culture amplifiers. CPP present 2 book talks by the local San Francisco authors focusing on Chinese American history in the city. In the other panels, celebrating traditions and writing magical stories, writers Yangzi Chu, Julie Leon, Amy Fan, and Julia Wen talked about how culture traditions, folklore, and heritage inspire their storytelling. They share how Lunar New Year customs, Asian folklore, family histories, and imagination shape their work and offer fresh perspective in fantasy and speculative fiction. The event ended with a book signing, give attendants a chance to meet the authors. Next slide. Branches and their neighboring communities celebrate the Year of the Horse with line dance by the Jingwu Athletic Association, a long-term library partner. We also welcome the West Coast Line Dance Troupe, who share martial art and cultural tradition. This year, total 20 branches across the city offer line dance performance for our diverse community. Next slide, please. San Francisco's Chinese New Year parade is one of the largest outside Asia, featuring growing floats and firecrackers, light dancers, and lively nighttime performance throughout downtown's Market Street. The library was honored to be part of this event with the youth mobile in attendance just for the occasion with San Francisco's drag Louette Percier. As you can see, the crowd was delighted to see Percier, and she and the bookmobile brought joy and sparkle to the event. Thank you, Library Commissioners, for your time. Please visit the Chinese Center at the 3rd floor for our Year of a Horse exhibition. To close, we will share video highlights from February's performance with the violinist Huang Bing present here in the correct auditorium. Please enjoy.
Shi and Gung Hei Fat Choi, Xinyan Kuai Le. Nice reel. Thank you, Hai-Ching. All right, next up, I'm pleased to introduce Sachiko Iwabuchi, our Japanese language librarian on the third floor here at the main library in our International Center. Sachiko recently partnered with the Consulate General of Japan to host a screening of the acclaimed documentary Paper Lanterns.
Good evening, library commissioners. I'm Sachiko Iwabuchi, the Japanese language librarian here at Maine in the National Center. So next slide, please. I'd like to briefly report on the successful screening of Paper Lanterns, which took place on February 25th, 2026 at the Main Library's Correct Auditorium here. This program served as an important opportunity for public engagement around history, remembrance, and peace building. The film documents the lifelong work of Shigeaki Mori, Mr. Mori's efforts to identify and connect with the families of 12 American prisoners of war who perished in Hiroshima, providing a powerful narrative that resonated deeply with attendees. This program was made possible in collaboration with several valued community partners, including the San Francisco Osaka Sister City Association, Japantown Task Force, Inc., Japan Society of Northern California, and the Japanese Chamber of Commerce of Northern California. Next slide. The event was well attended and included remarks from several distinguished guests, including Mayor Daniel Lurie via pre-recorded video, Consul General of Japan in San Francisco, Kotaro Otsuki, our city librarian, Michael Lambert, as well as other local community leaders. In addition, a small exhibition of historical photographs of Hiroshima was presented prior to the screening, offering valuable context for the audience. The program concluded with a reception, which provided an opportunity for continued dialogue and community connection. Next slide, please. Overall, the screening was meaningful and a well-received program that aligns with the library's Vision 2030 goals of being a resource provider, cultural amplifier, and community catalyzer to promote learning, cultural understanding, and civic engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sachiko. Next slide. All right, to close out the City Librarian's report this evening, I will be highlighting a collaboration with the Consulate General of Kazakhstan for San Francisco, Nazira Nurbayeva. Next slide. As background, a year ago, Nazira reached out to strengthen the relationship between the Consulate General of Kazakhstan in San Francisco and the San Francisco Public Library by donating books about Kazakh culture and history. These books were in 3 different languages, Kazakh, English, and Russian. Last month, we were able to build on that collaboration to host an extraordinary concert featuring Tehran, billed as an ethno-Turk ensemble, ethno-folk ensemble of the Turkic world. Next slide. The afternoon began with a pre-concert reception for the Consular Corps in San Francisco and members of the Kazakh community in the Bay Area, who connected over authentic Kazakh food and wine. The Office of Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kunalakis sent representation. In addition, the honorary consul to Kazakhstan, Hugh Hallman, flew in from Tempe, Arizona to participate. Next slide. Turan, Kazakhstan's renowned ensemble, mesmerized a full Koret auditorium in the spirit of the Great Steppe. 5 remarkable musicians performed on more than 30 different instruments in this concert, reviving ancient sounds and a guttural throat singing that I had never heard before. There was sweeping views of Kazakhstan's landscape and traditions that transformed this Koret auditorium into a living portrait of Kazakh culture. It was evident that their music and culture have a rare power to bring people together in ways that transcend language and geography. Next slide. In closing, during the past few weeks, we've hosted events with consular officials from the People's Republic of China, Kazakhstan, Japan, France, and even a visiting delegation from Kiel, Germany. These programs reflect several elements of our Vision 2030 strategic plan, particularly our commitments to cultural memory, community partnerships, and connecting diverse communities with learning and each other. The intergenerational audiences, the collaboration with community partners, and the focus on peace building, as Sachiko mentioned, align strongly with our goals around cultural storytelling and civic connection. San Francisco Public Library's efforts as a cultural amplifier is succeeding to generate positive pro-social foot traffic in our facilities, to foster community with our local diverse constituencies, support local small businesses, and boost stronger economic ties for our city with a global reach. And that concludes the City Librarian's Report.
Thank you very much for all of the wonderful presentations. We will now open public comment on this item. As a reminder, please limit your public comment to this specific item. Public comment is now open in Koret.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544, and Library Users 2004 at protonmail.com. Thanks very much for this presentation. I actually would like to have a copy of the whole program. It wasn't at the back of the room when I came before the meeting even began. I know that this tremendously wealthy library can't afford a couple extra copies in the back for the members of the public who might come. There were other things there, but not the minute, not the agenda, and not the this thing here. So I would like to see a copy. In any case, I did attend the concert of the Turan group, and it was fantastic. And extremely well attended, and for that matter, very enjoyable. There were sounds there that I hadn't heard before and music that I hadn't heard before, and it was wonderful to attend. There was a reception as well on the 6th floor. None of this was indicated when I, as far as I know, walked into the library, and I don't recall any publicity about this terrific program that I could see as somebody who attends goes to multiple branches and to the main library fairly regularly. I'd say probably at least twice a week. I've commented about the publicity here before. The programs here are very often excellent and very interesting for a whole range of reasons, but the publicity seems to exclude people who are not as technologically connected. So, for example, the library will send detailed publicity and weekly reports to people who are connected on their mailing list via electronic, certainly not equally to people who are not and who could be reached by mail, or could mitigate that publicity by having a bulletin board showing what's going on, or placards for today at the library, here's what's happening, or even a special program today, this is what's happening. None of that is being done in a way that is equivalent to, and I also didn't know about these other things. So I feel like the library is very, very selective in its publicity and largely excludes people who do not have or want to have electronic access. Studies have shown that what you touch, what you feature, will go up in use in libraries. Where have we talked about books or programs, and where's the proper publicity?
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Hearing no requests for comment, public comment is now closed, and we move to commission discussion on item number 5. Commissioner Menon.
Well, first of all, I think that the diversity of programming is remarkable, as always. How in the year do you strategize on what programming to do at different points? And also, what is kind of the best way to learn about the myriad programming offered at the library?
Thank you for those questions. I'll answer the second one first, because I think it's probably the easier answer. We have a newsletter at the library. We call it the ATL, so that comes out monthly, and that's available at all library locations, our website. We do have a mobile app as well that people can, access our web presence on, but our staff, they generate flyers, there's word of mouth promotion, and, we can always do better. I will acknowledge there's always room for improvement, but I also see our foot traffic going up, and the attendance is robust. So we're doing something right. We can do better. With regards to the curation of the programs, it is really a joint effort. It is the subject matter expertise of our staff. We have bilingual staff. We have affinity centers for the Chinese community, the Filipino community, African American, LGBTQIA+. We have a committee internally. I believe it's called CAMP, the Cultural Amplifier Programming Committee. And they meet regularly to curate a lot of the cultural celebrations. And, you'll find that we do some things every year. Our More Than a Month celebration of Black History. We're currently celebrating Women's History Month now. We're going to soon be celebrating Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So there's a lot of staff time and attention that goes into thoughtfully curating programming. And of course, you'll often hear in these presentations that we work in concert with community partners. So as much as possible, we are trying to co-create. We have an open call for programming and exhibition proposals. There's a form on our website. So our staff regularly screens those proposals and follows up with interested parties. So it's really a big effort when you consider we deliver over 15,000 programs a year.
Okay. Well, with that, I get to do my favorite part. The meeting is adjourned.